Okay, so today we're going to talk about brown marmorated stink bug, but also not just them, because there's not enough, I think, in 3 hours worth. Because there's so much we don't know about them. They're a fairly new insect pest to our area. But I have 2 handouts. Did you guys all get handouts? Okay. So let's talk about the brown marmorated stink bug first before we go on to, I have another one called 6 common stink bug and leaf-footed bug pests of vegetable crops in East Tennessee. And all of these pests are out there now. So this is really good timing for this workshop. And we'll go out, I'll do my spiel here, and then we'll go out and actually look and watch what they're doing in the field. So the brown marmorated stink bug, like I said, it's a new exotic pest to our area. We first started noticing them maybe 2 summers ago, and I've observed their population seem to be increasing and spreading in our area. They were originally discovered in Allentown, Pennsylvania in 1996. Likely they came in, they don't know exactly how it was first introduced, but likely it was through global commerce. It came in on products that came in from Korea or Asia somewhere. And by doing a new study that came out in January or February of this year by some researchers in China, and did some mapping, and they found that the mid-Atlantic region of the U.S. is prime environmental conditions for this pest. So we're going to expect it to increase and spread throughout this, to fulfill this niche that it can inhabit over the next couple of years. In the Pacific, or in the northeast Atlantic area, it's been causing a lot of damage in 2010 and 2011, particularly on fruit crops, apples and pears and such. And they said that this year they did not see the strong numbers of brown marmorated stink bug that they did in 2010 and 11, that for whatever reason this year they weren't as populous. But at the same time, they're spreading into new areas, and they're getting worse, I think, here and in Kentucky and North Carolina. So it's currently been found in 35 states, and it's also, besides being a vegetable pest, it's also a nuisance pest. And right now is the time where it's trying to get into your house. So has anyone seen them in their homes?
Yeah.
So they have an aggregation pheromone which allows them to, they kind of cluster together and they enter man-made structures and homes and garages and places like these outbuildings on farms, so that they can overwinter. And then they'll overwinter in the adult stage, which is what all stink bugs do. And then they'll emerge in the spring and start mating and start laying eggs. And so they'll have, in the south, there's 2 generations that are known. So the type of damage they cause on crops, so it seems like there's no end to what they'll feed on. They keep finding new things all the time, but they like a variety of fruit and vegetables, and they particularly like developed mature fruit and seeds. So right now is when the apple growers are seeing them causing problems. And it's when the apples are just about ready to ripen and be picked, you'll see puncture marks. And I have some pictures here of what the damage will look like. So the damage is characterized by, well, first I should say all stink bugs have piercing and sucking mouth parts, so they have a stylet. And that stylet will be, it arises from the top of the head, and it will lay on their underside, flattened out in between their legs. And I think I have a picture of that to help you get that idea. But anyway, their damage is puncture wounds, distortion, cat facing. So it leaves the product unmarketable. And also the wounds can create sites where other bacterial or diseases can enter the fruit and vegetables and cause further damage. So let me look at these pictures. It's go over them. All right, so here's the adult brown marmorated stink bug, and it looks very similar to our native brown stink bug. The way you can tell the difference is you have alternating bands of white and black on the margins of its abdomen, and then on the antennae there's 2 white bands. And marmorated just means marbled. So the coloration is kind of a brown marbling, but that coloration is very similar to our native brown stink bug. Here is an immature marmorated stink bug. So those white bands are a little more obvious, and you'll see that white band on their legs. But the difference between the immature and mature forms are that the immature forms do not have fully developed wings and are not able to reproduce. So they're juvenile forms. So all stink bugs have 5 instars that they go through. So they have what we call simple or incomplete metamorphosis. So they'll hatch out, and the first instars they look basically just like this, only smaller, and they'll just get bigger in size until their last molt they'll become an adult. And I do have real bugs here. And yeah, we can pass them around. And you can look at some of the other pests on there. We'll talk about those too. And so here is a photo of the brown marmorated stink bug lays their eggs in clusters. And stink bug eggs are hard, and they're often white, and they're keg-shaped or barrel-shaped. And the egg clusters are usually about 20 to 35 eggs per cluster. They're not real easy to squash. You kind of have to get them with your fingernail. Not like a lot of bug eggs where you can, I'm thinking like Colorado potato beetle eggs, which are bright yellow and really easy to squish. So when they first come out, when they first emerge from the egg stage, they have this reddish kind of coloration. And we have some out there right now that look like this, so we'll see those.
If you just glance at them real quick, they almost look like ladybugs.
Yeah? Oh, some people say they look like a tick.
Oh yeah, that does. But the
only they're
wings,
bigger. Yeah. Right.
If they're by themselves, they almost look like a ladybug.
Right. And they lose that red orange coloring as this is the first instar. They've just hatched out. And this is probably a 4th or 5th. Okay. So now we can let's go over some damage. And I've just gotten pictures from some of these major crops that they've been known to cause economic damage on. So here's an example of what their damage might look like on green pepper. And this, on red pepper, it would be the same. But basically, what they've done is just taken a cross section of the wall of the fruit here, and you can see these white kind of pithy sections. This is where they've inserted their stylets and just kind of sucked out the plant tissue. Their stylets also have, when they begin to feed, they're secreting enzymes, or like a saliva, which helps them digest this tissue so that it liquefies it so that they can suck it up. So when you see a fruit, and we have some peppers out there we'll look at, but you can see before they cut it open, you can see kind of these discolored spots, and when you feel them, they'll feel kind of corky. And you all have these in the handout, right? Okay. And the fruit really, you can still eat it, but people want a perfect looking fruit, really. So if it has a lot of extensive damage, you're not likely to be able to sell it. So here's another example of the outside of what the damage would look like on the green pepper.
But that really does not affect the fruit though, I mean, you can still eat it.
You can still eat it, but it just makes it ugly.
Yeah, you can't sell,
Yeah.
I mean, nobody would wanna buy it, but.
Right. And okra, you can still eat that, but people, I mean, really, to sell marketable okra, you should have nice straight pods. And this is, so their feeding damage on the okra causes the fruit to become distorted or J-shaped. And it's the reaction of that salivary enzymes that get inserted into the plant that makes it cause that distortion. And it's hard to pickle these.
It's stuck in the drawer.
Beans, they really can do a number on beans. They cause these big, these wounds or lesions. And I've seen it rot. Beans will be likely to rot where they've had the feeding damage. And what other vegetables do we have? Okay, soybeans, they do a unique thing to soybeans. So right here in this picture, you can see there's an edge effect here. The orange or dyed back, what do I want to call it? Senesced. Like that's what the field soybeans should look like when you go into harvest. The beans should be dry so you can bring in the harvesters and collect those beans. So what the brown marmorated does is it reacts with the plant's normal biochemical ripening process and prevents the pods from turning green so that you can't harvest them. So it kind of creates these forever green looking pods. And we have some on our edamame. And there's other damage here too that I should take pictures of and send in. But all right, so here's sweet corn. So they're sucking. You won't see this on the outside of the corn when it's husked, but they'll pierce through that husk and suck out the tissue in those kernels. And that's pretty bad looking. I don't think anyone can sell that. But you don't know until you open it up. It's like a surprise. All right, tomato. Has anyone seen this on their tomato? We've seen a lot of this on ours too. And it's similar to what happens with the green peppers. These are the feeding sites, and they're just sucking out those tissues. So if you cut that open, it's going to look a lot like the green pepper looked. And then with fruit, it's pretty, it's similar, only you'll see kind of rotten areas inside the fruit when you cut it open. Oops. Here's this is apple and this is peach. So fruit growers have had a hard time managing this pest. They're hard to manage conventionally, let alone organically. There's a lot of insecticide resistance, and stink bugs are just tough to kill chemically anyway. So we're looking so that hopefully with upcoming research we'll find some ways that help both organic and conventional growers manage these pests. All right, so kind of went over the description, the damage. So yeah, let's talk about the management since I alluded to that. So there's a organic brown marmorated stink bug grant that it's a multi-state initiative, and we're going to be doing some work here on it. Also Kentucky, New Jersey, Virginia, West Virginia. So a lot of these mid-Atlantic states, universities are involved in this multi-state grant to try to solve these problems and try to find some real solutions for organic growers. So the research is really new. There's nothing really concrete out there yet. But Tracy Lesky from the USDA ARS Appalachian Fruit Research Station has done some preliminary work on some OMRI-approved pesticides and their efficacy. So she found that pyrethrin plus kaolin. So kaolin is a clay. It's a kaolin clay product that comes in a powder. It's called Surround. Is anyone familiar with? And you can use them. Basically what you do is you mix the powder with water and a sprayer, and you can spray it on. We use it a lot on our cucurbits for squash bugs, but a lot of fruit growers use it too on their apples. And it also prevents, not only does it act as a physical barrier between insect feeding damage, but it also can prevent some foliar diseases like powdery mildew and downy mildew. And it's a good organic preventative treatment because it's not toxic. It doesn't have any effects on beneficial insects or pollinators. It does wash off when it rains, so that's the side effect. But so she found that kale and clay plus pyrethrins, so Pyganic is the common, the brand name of organic pyrethrins. And pyrethrins are broad spectrum pesticides based on chrysanthemums. That was the most effective in lab. These are lab bioassays that she did on adult and nymphal stages of brown marmorated stink bugs. So the lethality index she had was around 63% of the bugs were killed. So looking at things alone, pyrethrins alone weren't as effective as pyrethrins with that clay product. Potassium salts, this is MP, and this is a really good organic control substance against aphids and other soft-bodied insects, and spider mites. But it seemed to have the rest of the substances, the OMRI-approved substances tested, did not have a lot of great control. And even water was better than the azadirachtin or the neem, which is another important organic substance for a lot of other soft-bodied insects. So there's a lot of work to do in figuring out how we're going to best manage these, and it's going to be a comprehensive IPM strategy where we're looking at where the insect overwinters, what are the hot spots, how it's moving from the landscape into agricultural systems, because it does feed in forests and landscape trees and areas. And what it needs to fully reproduce. I often find adults on plants where I never find eggs, so we're thinking that it needs maybe multiple hosts to reproduce. What plants does it prefer? And that's going to help, figuring that out is going to help us with trap cropping strategies. And also we're looking at physical barriers, row covers, and things like this that we can use to prevent feeding in the first place, as well as the OMRI, more work on OMRI substances and biological control. There are a couple different parasitoids that are from their native region in Asia that we might learn something from them. But also looking at, since we do have native stink bugs here, like the brown and green stink bugs, our native parasitoids may be able to offer some kind of management on these exotic brown marmorated stink bugs. So figuring those things out, and also things like how they move at night. Do they move at night, and how are they flying, and what are they looking for? So there's a lot of basic biology that's still yet to be discovered. Any questions on brown marmorated in particular?
Do you know if the high tunnels provide any protection, or are they just
The high tunnels would, if it would offer a physical kind of protection. So right now when they're open, they can get in there. When we have tomatoes, which they like, or peppers in the high tunnels, in the summer months you'll have to have the doors and sides open, so they can get in there. But it does seem, I believe the high tunnels make it harder for insects to figure it out. So that the pests we often have in the tunnels are more greenhouse type pests, like spider mites, thrips, aphids, controlled environment type pests. But you do see brown marmorated stink bug get in there too. It would help in the spring and in the late fall when you have them totally closed up. Row covers would also help, but at the same time you can't cover up a lot of these plants that need pollinators. You have to remove the covers for those. Lights.
Does the surround improve the longevity of certain organic pesticides? Does it kind of box them, or maybe binds them together?
So you mean with the? Are you asking why maybe the surround worked better?
Yeah.
With the
Or well, I mean, I guess in combination with any of those.
I don't know so much that it would lock in the effective ingredient. I would think if anything, well, maybe. It is a dry kind of substance, but I think the reason why it worked with so well together is because they had different kind of modes of action. So the surround was preventing the stink bugs from feeding. So in effect, they could have been starving from not feeding because it provides a clay barrier. But also you have pyrethrins, which are a contact toxin.
Did you look at surround by itself? Don't see
She doesn't have it in there. Yeah. It probably would take a while to kill them because it'd be a starvation kind of a thing. It's not toxic otherwise, it's just preventing feeding.
How frequently would they have to spray with something like Surround?
Surround, it depends on how often it rains.
after the rain.
And on one side, there's not, with a lot of these other chemical-based pesticides or microbials and things, they give you, the label will say you can only spray, X amount of weeks in a season, and you want to rotate too. With Surround, since it's a physical type material, there's no limit on how often you can spray from that point of view, but the rain will wash it off. And you want to be careful not to cover it too thick because you can impede photosynthesis if you cake it on the leaves. All right.
Do you know if she applied those, which one she applied first, or are they on different days? Or?
This was in a laboratory test, so she had given the brown marmorated stink bugs, they were in dishes, and she was giving them beans and things that were applied with these. And then just every day or every 12 hours or something looked at the lethality, mortality.
In some of the work that Galen Dively's done from the University of Maryland, he mentioned that the alternate hosts in the spring before we have crops are Paulownia and Tree of Heaven.
Yes, yeah.
So
Thanks, I
that's
meant
why
to mention that.
Tennessee is such a great place for them.
Because we have those. And also they're finding them a lot. Celeste Welty in Ohio said she was finding a lot on Rose of Sharon, which is similar. It's related to hibiscus and okra. I find them all the time on okra, so I'm thinking okra is probably a good trap crop. But the Tree of Heaven is in the same family. So. All right. Okay, so let's go into some of the other 6 common stink bug and leaf-footed bug pests. So I chose to do these along with brown marmorated just because these are pests that are often confused with them, or they're similar and so the damage is similar. So true bugs are members of the order Hemiptera, and Hemiptera is just Latin for half-wing. So if you look at that picture again, I can show you what they mean by that. So all insects have 2 pairs of wings, and in the Hemiptera, you have the flight wings are membranous and they're folded below these hardened or sclerotized half wings. So imagine a beetle, this half wing or sclerotized hardened portion, it's for protection of the flight wings. But in a beetle, it extends the whole way. And beetles tend to be more round. So that's what Hemiptera means, half-winged. And one of the distinguishing features of true bugs is they all have the piercing sucking mouth parts, or the stylets. And I mentioned the simple metamorphosis. All true bugs go through that process where, in contrast, the other form of metamorphosis is complete metamorphosis. And think of a butterfly where it starts out as an egg and then goes through a caterpillar stage, and those caterpillar stages look completely different from the adult stage. The larvae are also feeding on different plants as the adult stage, so there's a separation of niches that way. But with the true bugs, they're not as evolutionarily advanced as those complete metamorphosis insects. So they all have this simple metamorphosis where the young look like tiny versions of the adults, and they're often feeding on the same things. So there are a lot of different families of true bugs. Some are aquatic, most are terrestrial, and of the land bugs, you have some that are beneficial. You have some predators, like the spine soldier bug is an example, or the big rejuviids that you see, and they'll use those piercing, sucking mouth parts, and they'll pierce their prey, and those are the bugs that we want to promote in our garden, so those are our friendly bugs. And then you have a number of them that are phytophagous, that damage our food crops, and these are the ones I'm talking about today. And the two families that I'm going to focus on are some insects in the Pentatomidae, and these are the stink bugs. And the stink bugs have, like our brown marmorated friend, is shield-shaped. And they also have, when they're disturbed, they have scent glands which produce a strong odor when they're crushed. So we'll crush them today and smell some bugs. They call the stink bug, this brown marmorated, it has, the scent is like a burnt cilantro kind of scent, is what's been described to me, and I agree with that, but maybe you guys will have some other descriptive terms for what it smells like. And their scent glands are on the second page. There's the green stink bug. Their scent glands, you can't see it in this picture, but they're in between the first and second pair of legs on the ventral or underside of the body. If you've ever wondered where the stink bug. So I talked about brown marmorated already. I'll go into some of the other ones. And then we have the native, so on the second page, the native brown stink bug. And in the picture, you'll see it does look a lot. It looks really similar. And I don't have one in my specimen box because I can't find any natives. All I see now are brown. But the difference you'll notice is in the antennae, you don't see those white bands. But you do have a little bit of alternating white and black on the margin of the abdomen. Another indicator too is if you turn the bugs over their bottom side, the native will have a yellow, kind of a yellowish cream underside of the body, whereas the brown marmorated will be grayish brown. But their feeding and their damage are really similar, and there's also a lot of host plants that the native brown stink bug will attack. It's not been as much of a concern because it's native. They suspect that there's native parasitoids and predators that will keep the populations from becoming so injurious as they are with this brown marmorated one, which is an exotic. There are also 1 to 2 generations a year in the south for the native brown stink bug. Another one that's really common is the green stink bug, and we'll see some of these today. They also have a wide host range, and the damage is also similar because of those piercing, sucking mouth parts. Green stink bugs are found throughout the U.S. and southern Canada, so they're really common. And there's 2 different types. There's Acrosternum hilaire, which is going through a name change. Now they're calling it Chenavia hilaris, but that's your green stink bug. And then there's the southern green stink bug, Nazera viridula. So the difference is they're really hard to tell apart. The only difference is the formation of those scent glands on their underside of their body, so you need like a hand lens or a microscope to see them. But it doesn't really matter because their damage is very similar. They say that the green stink bug is less damaging than the southern green stink bug. So have you guys seen those green ones? We'll see them today, and actually I know where there are some mating right now. So the southern green stink bug is found in the southeastern U.S. predominantly. But although I keep finding Acrosternum hilaire, where it feeds on also a variety of vegetables, fruits, and agronomic crops. They say that the southern green stink bug prefers legumes and crucifers, so these are things like cabbage and broccoli, cauliflower. And then there's 4 generations a year of the southern green stink bug, contrasted with 2 for the regular green stink bug. And this one they think is exotic. So it comes from possibly Ethiopia. So, but you find it a lot in subtropical or tropical areas. So not only is it here, but it's also in areas in South America and warmer subtropical areas in Europe, Asia, and Africa. So it likes it warmer. And the harlequin bug is another stink bug that you guys know this one, right? You've seen it on anyone who's tried to grow broccoli or cabbage organically knows the harlequin bug. So the harlequin bug is most commonly in the southern areas of the U.S. and they're also sap suckers and true stink bugs. They feed, although they don't feed on pods and fruit like the brown marmorated or the native brown, they feed on leaves. So you'll see necrotic areas on your leaves, and then the leaves will start to wilt, and if it's bad enough, they can kill the plant. And the adults are the colorful, they really stick out. They're that colorful orange and black. And their undersides of their body are white and black. And so their eggs are really distinguishable too. They're that typical stink bug, kind of hard keg-shaped egg cluster, but they have black hoops around them. And then, now we're going into a different family, the leaf-footed bug and the squash bug. And so these two are common pests of the family Coreidae. So they're related, they're true bugs, but they're not the same as stink bugs. They're, Coreids are leaf-footed bugs. And then you have the true leaf-footed bug, which we also have in the garden. So the leaf-footed bugs, the main difference between these and the squash bugs are you'll see the leaf-footed bugs have those big extensions on their hind tibia, so they kind of flare out and it looks like a leaf, so they call them leaf-footed bugs. And they're more, this family is more elongate, less shield-like shaped than your true stink bugs. But they also have a wide host range, and they feed on a lot of different vegetables, fruits, grains, nuts, and ornamentals. But the damage, I see these a lot on tomatoes and fruit. So sometimes you can't tell the difference between this leaf-footed bug damage on a tomato or the brown marmorated. It'll all kind of look like that. And the squash bugs, these pests are specialists, more specialists I should say, than the leaf-footed bugs or a lot of the other stink bugs. They prefer cucurbits, so you'll often find them on pumpkins and squash. You were having a problem with them. We have a problem with them every year.
Yeah, they demolish
Yes.
every pumpkin we've ever planted.
And they're feeding, if you think back to what I was saying about the harlequin bug, they'll cause those necrotic areas. They'll feed on stems and leaves, and then they cause the leaves to wilt, and the plant can die if there's enough of them. And oftentimes you'll find many on one plant. And the squash bug will leave, their eggs are different looking than your stink bug eggs. So they're sort of flattened. They're not barrel shaped. They don't stick straight up.
They're also hard to squash.
They're hard to squash, and they're this brown metallic. It's really tough to get them out of those midrib veins. The squash bug, you won't see that extended formation on its tibia like you would with the leaf-footed bugs. But these guys will smell too when you squash them. So the squash bug has kind of a pleasant smell. It smells like watermelon. Maybe that's what they feed them. It's different from stink bugs, but they have scent glands. And the purpose of these scent glands and these odors are to make them distasteful to predators and things like birds and rodents and other insects. And insects like the harlequin bug, oftentimes when you see a brightly colored insect, it's advertising a defense, or it's mimicking a defense of something else. But, any questions on pentatomids? And this is just one insects that I kept this simple, because these are the ones we most often have problems with on vegetables in our area.
We were talking about predators for them.
Yeah.
When you're releasing something, I've done a little bit of looking into that, and would it stay in like a farm crop area, or is that mostly for greenhouses?
Yeah, most augmentative biocontrol, so if you're going to buy insects as biocontrol, it's better done in a controlled environment, because then you know they can't leave. There are some predators or parasitoids that will kind of stick around. There's one that attacks Mexican bean beetle that apparently sticks around, but mostly as a general rule, it's a waste of money, because they might do some work here, but then the better way to do it is conservation biocontrol, where you're planting a lot of different flowers and nectary plants and things that your lady beetles and your parasitoid wasps and your predators want. So making a nice habitat for them, and then being choosy about what you're spraying. Like did we ever spray Pyganic this year? I don't think we ever did. I think all we sprayed was Surround and BT. And so you're spraying selective chemicals, and over time you'll see your insect diversity increase. And we have a lot of different pollinators and butterflies out here now. So there's a lot going on in the garden, because we're creating habitat for those beneficiaries. Should we go out and look for insects? This is the best part. Anyone know what it is?
Nope.
Mexican bean beetle. That's the larval form. So here's is there an adult?
Yeah, there's an adult right here.
And the adults look just like lady beetles. They're in the same family. They're actually, I think, the only herbivorous lady beetle. The only pest lady beetle you'll find is the Mexican bean beetle.
I should kill all those things. But I
And they prefer snap beans to edamame. But now, since they've done such a number on the snap beans, they're moving over to the edamame.
There you go. Did you smell it?
Did you see one?
It's a real one.
He just killed a brown marmorated. But
Did you smell it?
Here's a
Yep.
larva and an adult together
Of
of the Mexican bean beetle. These are fun to squish because they're very soft.
Those are the ones that lay the orange soft eggs.
Yes. They look.
Yeah, there's 3 adults right there. I can kill 2 of them. Leave one for demonstration, right? Here we go. That's true. I could just squash the other one. You get the idea. Here we go. And the larvae.
I'm looking now for brown marmorated.
Soap will help them when they're larvae and they're soft, but it won't adults are really tough to kill.
Yeah, the adults. They are hard to kill. That Spinoza said would work also on the immature stages.
Even with conventional pesticides, like for squash bugs, you want to get them right as they're hatching,
Right.
because it's really tricky to do, to be there right when they're.
The immature
that
stages
hatching.
are going to be the most sensitive to pesticides.
So if you're doing that in multiple, like having to go take out one generation, then wait until those eggs would hatch and take out the next, how long of a waiting period would you want between those?
Mary, would know that better
Between
than
what was this?
one generation and the next generation of
A waiting period?
Yeah, like if you had to spray and then the eggs from when you sprayed before, are going to hatch? How
how
frequently
long
do you want your
between-
sprays?
The eggs are gonna hatch in a week to 10 days.
Okay.
The problem is you're gonna have new ones laying eggs.
Right.
So you're never gonna
Okay,
get
so
it
here.
all in one fell swoop. They're just gonna. That's why it's so tricky.
So here's one of the immature stages.
Of the
Now,
brown.
yeah. And now we'll squash it.
Oh, wow, they're beautiful. Can you see?
Do you smell it?
It's beautiful. I've never seen a living one. But I knew of.
And they don't have wings,
Oh,
so they
here's
can't
more.
fly. That's why he's not flying.
Right. They don't have wings. You don't smell them? When they're really bad, all you have to do is just walk through and your legs will brush up against the plant and you'll smell it in the air.
This is really why we had the workshop here for this one. So as you see them, you can squash them.
Right. So there's
Free labor.
there's many more.
Many more, and don't just walk by them. No, you smell basil. I do too. All of it smells so good.
Okay. So we're probably not going to find a lot on the sunflowers now because the sunflowers are mostly done. We might find some on the seed head. But they do, the brown marmorated particularly likes sunflowers.
Now, will the birds eat the marmorated seafood?
You know, some will and some won't. So I've heard from some growers that their guineas will eat them. But I don't know about songbirds.
Because I thought with all the sunflower, you'd have all the birds.
Right. And I think it's one of those where they just don't really, they don't
Not
know.
that appetizing.
Yeah, they're not, and they're not.
Appetizing.
They're very acrid and bitter tasting. So
Habitat for the big guys. They could do that for me.
sunflowers are one of our favorite things to plant
Yeah.
because it's native, it's easy to grow. It provides food for birds. It provides sources for pollinators. We always have bumblebees covering these. And they make the farm. I mean, they're really, when they're in bloom, it's are really attractive.
Yeah.
Mary, is this friend or foe?
This is, that looks like an armyworm. Oh, it's peeking on me. That's another defensive mechanism. So here we have,
You hand it to her and it pukes.
That was good timing.
On film.
so this is an armyworm of some kind. It's a pest.
Does it transform?
Yeah, it'll be a moth. And it just puked on me. That's a
The last
defensive
person has
mechanism.
to squish it after they see it.
Yes.
What do they most often?
So they'll eat. They also they're chewing insect pests like most like all caterpillars, but they'll chew. I've been seeing a lot of them on. They like the strawberries. I've been seeing them
Prolong it from bolting.
on a lot of our brassicas. They have a wide host
Like a
range,
screen filter to make it.
and there's a lot of different species
That would be
of
very
what's called armyworms.
Just need to rip them off.
Tell you,
I think cut them down in half and harvest them.
They have
Clubber loves it.
a wide host range.
Bring it in, they can smell it across the room.
So right there, you found them on
I
beans,
didn't know
but we've seen them on. Here's strawberries over here.
Yeah,
They'll eat
the best thing to
strawberries.
do would be
But
just-
they're a little
I've
bit
seen them
different.
on.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, they are. They're different from the beet armyworm.
How about the tomatoes, the green ones?
Those are the fruit worm, tomato
Okay.
fruit worm.
Okay. They're fatter, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit fatter.
And those are the same, the tomato fruit worm is the same as the corn earworm.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this is where the potatoes were. Over here. I want to bring you over to the peppers. As we walk through the weeds. Okay, so on the peppers, we're going to look for damage on the fruit as well as the insects themselves. Do you see the feeding damage on the pepper?
Slight blemishes.
Yeah, do you
Just like
see
the
where it's
blemishes.
discolored?
Yep.
And if we have a knife, does anyone have a pocket knife? Annette, do you have a pocket knife?
Darn it. Some farmers.
I know, I know. Well, we can pass that around. When if we cut, I'll find a knife, and when we cut that open, it'll really be dramatic. But do you see?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Mary, I have some weird looking things over here.
It's more obvious when we see it as that pepper turns red.
What are these?
Those are soldier beetles,
Ah, they're
and
everywhere.
they're good.
Good.
So they're related to fireflies, and
Oh, yeah,
they're
look like
eating.
them,
They don't glow though, but they're eating. They're looking for pollen and nectar, and they also eat aphids and other insects. So it's good to have them.
They're everywhere.
I often we see them around this time of the year. They really come out. So those are a good guy.
Flower.
This is coxcomb or celosia, and I didn't know that we grew it as a cut flower, but we've seen a lot of good bugs on it, and I didn't know it was such an attractant to beneficial insects. We also saw earlier in the day bees will.
Planting with it.
Sorry.
I wonder if you can do companion plantings with that,
Planting, yeah.
interspersed with the.
Right, right.
I don't know how to spell it.
Coxcomb.
Celosia is
C-E-L-O-S-I-A.
C-E-L-O-S-I-A.
Cut your pepper open.
Oh yeah. Will you cut it open?
So yeah, it's a
Just
cut
kind of
flower.
take a cross.
Yeah,
So we could
yeah,
just
and
combine 'em.
these
Yeah.
flowers last forever. I call them
They do.
brain coral,
They do look like.
but they last a good long time in an arrangement.
Do you see anything in the walls here?
It's coloration. Just
There's no reason to not intersperse
Let's
them.
see.
Yeah.
Attracting
No, they're
beneficials got
attractive.
grown anyway.
Tons of beneficials on that thing.
See if we can get a
It seems like that color's the most
cross
popular
section.
too.
We can find one too that's more obvious if this one.
Now, are you guys not harvesting any more of your vegetables?
Oh, we are.
Because I notice your okra is white.
Done.
Yeah.
It goes pretty fast.
So
go.
this
I
one's
do it
not
in my
real
backyard.
obvious, but you'll
I do it
see
almost every day.
right here
The
where
problem
this
is you
should
only
be
have market
green.
once a week, so
Not
Yeah.
the picky part,
okra
but
can get out of control long before.
let's find a redder
Mine's
pepper.
getting
It's more
to the
obvious.
end of its season.
Thank you, Dudley. I might need it
Soldier
again.
bug.
All right, let's find a. We'll also see them on jalapenos. Nice bright red one. One's not that bad. wonder what did that.
It's fizzle out. That's a pretty nice looking one otherwise.
Does anyone see something they think is damaged?
It's a nice looking pepper.
I guess it's a good thing we can't find bad ones.
Not good when you're doing a workshop, but normally. Wow, there's some nice looking. If only we had some of Grant's peppers. He had a lot of it. You're not seeing any? Well, maybe they know we're looking for them. Have you, now we could look at the eggplant. I did see some on the eggplant earlier.
When we left, he wasn't doing so good, but other than that, exactly.
Okay, here's one.
Do you guys know the same markets, or?
No,
I know I've seen you before, but.
we just do UT market.
Oh, it fell.
I found a different one on the eggplant.
Okay. Do you know what that is?
I have no clue.
For one.
Does anyone know what this is?
Did last year, though.
is Colorado potato beetle. So it's a beetle, and their host plants are members of the nightshade or this solanaceous family. Really, you'll see them do a number on potatoes, but they will eat, if they have no potatoes, they'll go on to eggplant and tomatoes.
So you
I
won't-
rarely ever see them on peppers, even though peppers are solanaceous, but usually I see them on these potatoes are the number one pest.
So just don't keep them around. That's the main thing, right?
Right. And here's a green stink bug, immature, I think. It's similar to that one that we saw earlier. So I saw the brown marmorated, and it dropped down.
Uh-oh.
So who hasn't smelled these? Oh, here's the adult. Here's an adult green.
Is that the one that smells like watermelon?
No, those are the squash bugs. Oh. We'll find those too. Right. No, they smell real acrid, kind of. It doesn't quite smell like that burnt cilantro of the ground marmorated.
I've never seen those as much as smelling those now.
Yeah, okay, so here's a brown marmorated adult. Ugh. See how they do that?
Get away.
They do, they get away, they just fall down.
Like possum.
They're good at that.
Keep them unless you live fast. You don't have to get real fast.
Ah, here it is. Smell that one, really good.
I was gonna say, don't let it land on me.
It already did. His cousin.
Can I kill it? You guys sit down.
Oh, here's an interesting one that I've not. This one's more of a ornamental pest. I've not seen this
Little bug juice, all right.
on vegetables before. This is lace bug.
But you want that, correct?
No, those are bad.
Lace bugs are?
Lace wings are good.
Oh, lace bugs.
Green lace wings and brown lace wings are good. And these ones are called lace bugs because they have a lacy kind of appearance, and it looks like they just hatched out, so they're...
Is that what's doing all that?
The chewing damage is likely, there was a lot of flea beetles in here earlier.
I lost one. Oh, there he is.
Did you find a brown marmorated?
Yep. Snuck away.
Here's one that doesn't look so dark as the others, but it has those bands. It's an immature.
Maybe it's a different.
Maybe it is. Maybe
You
it's
should
the
save
native
it.
brown.
You should save it so you
I
can
should
name
send it in.
Rogers. Yeah.
Here's another adult. Did everybody see see what they do?
That's
They're so
Oh, there's
tricky.
a leaf-footed thing.
leaf-footed bug.
Oh wow.
Things are liking the eggplant right now, huh?
The leaf-footed one?
Annette, what's this weed? Is this cockleburr?
Mm-hmm.
It came from
You're doing a
the
good
mulch.
job growing them.
It came from the mulch at Bill's house.
Stick to you.
All right. So okra, if we can get over there without getting cockleburrs all over the place. So they really like the okra. I already found one right now. I squashed it.
It's a different stage.
This one is really soft, so I think it just became an adult. You can feel it. Oop. I squashed it already. So I think it had just molted. So here's that curved J-shaped okra, and you can see too some damage.
Now, would that be from any sucking insect, or will that usually be the stink bug?
It will be stink bugs, because you won't find leaf-footed bugs too often on okra. Squash bugs you won't find on okra. So it's a piercing, sucking mouth part. So it's likely a stink bug, either the green or brown.
So what is it that, what are they doing to the plant? Let me see.
So when they feed, they produce this saliva which has enzymes in it, and the plant reacts to that by curving. All right. And this is one of these heirloom types of okra. Have you all seen this? The purple one? Here's another leaf-footed. That's a Colorado potato beetle larva.
Oh. It looks
So
like
they're they'll be contributing to some of these larger holes. These little shot holes are due to flea beetles. And this skeletonization is likely extensive flea beetle feeding.
And how do you prevent the flea beetles? I know they say put
Flea beetles are really hard, but what we've done is in the spring we transplant, and when the plants are really young, that's when they're most vulnerable. So we put row cover over until they get big enough and until they just start producing flowers, and then we take the row cover off, and by that time they're kind of tough enough. We still always have damage, but they're producing fruit, and then we have to take the covers off because the bees need to visit.
Yeah, it's not the eggplant that we had as much problem with as the kale.
Kale,
Mustard greens.
and then you can just cover it and never uncover it. If you do it early, just
Yeah.
keep it covered the whole time, because you
So
don't
they
need
live in the
pollinators.
ground over winter?
They'll overwinter in the ground, but they'll also you'll always get some.
Okay.
But if you cover it, you're less likely to get new.
New one, okay.
And it also, that cover helps with your it'll help with harlequin bugs, which also like kale. It'll help with your imported cabbage worms and cabbage looper pests. Here's another one of those soldier beetles. It's liking the echinacea.
Oh, is that what that is? Echinacea?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Our purple coneflower, yeah.
Oh. Wow, the rose bianca.
All right, we can move on to some of our fall crops, which are having a rough time.
Is this all shade cloth?
Yeah, this is some shade cloth and row cover. The row cover's falling down. But we put them up right after the plants were transplanted because it was very hot. And we thought they would benefit from a little bit of shade. So here is, these are collards mixed in with some beets. So you see holes, and those are likely due to armyworm or some of your caterpillar pests. We have these white butterflies that you'll see flying around are imported cabbage worms, and they're chewing pests. So they make these big holes. But you'll see other little damaged spots, and that these turn yellow and then they'll turn brown. And this is a piercing sucking insect pest. So we're looking now for harlequin bugs.
On the underside of that one right behind your
Right,
leg.
here's one. This one was the one you're looking at? Oh, you almost always find two. You never just find one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not
These guys.
Where'd he
as
go?
pungent. Here's
Magic.
another one.
Oh, this
And
one's
here's their eggs.
this one's more cooperative. He's
I'm
still
gonna just
sleeping.
take that. Here's their eggs. With the black hoops.
Wow, yeah.
Oh, they're
There's
so
another.
tiny.
There's 2 egg masses on this leaf.
Yeah.
Wow.
Try to crush those.
Oh, wow.
They're hard. You have to use your fingernail.
Oh, there's a bunch.
Oh,
of
and
them.
here's some mating.
You're getting down, you gotta kill them.
Yeah.
For them to make more.
There we go. So we have a lot of these right now, and they specialize on brassicas. So that's why we have them on all our collards. And here's some young ones, immatures.
And this is where flaming comes in.
Except
Saying he's torching everything, but harlequin bugs are a good one to torch.
How would you control without doing damage to the plants? Or
Well, ideally when you're flaming, people think that you stand there and torch them until they're crispy, but
just a little bit of heat.
yeah, a little bit of heat.
You have to be careful because this mulch also flames.
Yeah, that, you can't do it because of our mulch, but
Oh, wow.
if you had bare soil, you could do it.
Harl-
And if you're on like a tractor, you just drive like 5 miles an hour.
That family.
Harlequin bugs are always bad when it's
It'll knock them back a little bit, but nothing
when it's warm. Yeah. Oh, here's another brown marmorated.
they're not getting too.
So harlequin bugs in the springtime, you don't see them until it gets quite warm, like usually mid-June. But when we plant our fall crops, it's warm. It's been warm. So they will live on alternate hosts. I've seen them on sunflowers over the summer when there wasn't any brassicas for them to eat, because brassicas are cool season crops. So they're just waiting until you plant your fall crops, and then they find them. So here's some of the damage where this turns this necrotic
Generally what you do
area.
is like we had one
All of this
in Ohio on the back of the
is their damage. And the leaves will start to pucker at the margins. You'll see some of that. And they are all over.
What is the big green plant that's over here? Over to the right.
This? Or,
What are those?
this watermelon?
Well,
Or
I
no?
think it looks like watermelon up there.
Yeah, this is the Moon and Stars watermelon. Yep, it's an heirloom type.
Oh, okay.
It's a nice flavor. Big seeds. They call them Moon and Stars because of the speckling. The yellow speckling on the rind, and then you'll usually have one big one that's the moon, and the yellow speckles are the stars. So usually, yeah, the harlequin bugs, they're tough. This is our second year trying to do a fall garden. Last year they decimated our fall garden.
We had a high tunnel at home and it was a great garden.
Yeah.
But we're not doing a high tunnel at the farm until February.
High tunnels are nice because the flavor, if you can put it things in the middle of the winter, and you get that really sweet and not bitter at all. So I'm trying to find some caterpillar pests to show you, because something is making all of these big holes.
What?
Now I have seen some grasshoppers.
The grasshoppers, yes.
Yeah,
They could be doing that too.
a bunch of them.
Yeah, there are.
I think she said these
This
were.
is some kohlrabi.
Yeah.
And some of these over here, the white ones, are almost ready. All right. So this is cowpea, and it's a good summer cover. It dies back; it'll winter kill, and so this is just a cover crop for us. But cowpea in it is the same as black-eyed pea, southern pea, and black-eyed pea.
or purple hull pea, all those. Yep.
Okay. And we're not growing this for a crop, but mostly just a cover to take over this section that we didn't have anything planted in to provide nitrogen for the soil. I did see there are some Mexican bean beetles in here, but I also saw earlier, before you all came, some green stink bugs, and they were mating. We'll see if we can find them and see if we can identify some of their damage. Now it's going to be harder to find the green ones because they're the same color as the plant. Oh my God. Did you find something?
It's just is that like a yes.
Yeah, so this is that one's probably the green stink bug in a church.
They're so tiny.
You haven't sprayed anything on here, have you?
Does it look like?
It's a dead moth.
Huh?
A dead moth.
Good.
It just got old, I guess.
Is it parasitized? I guess it's not good.
A lot of pollinators over here.
There's also a lot of grasshoppers in here, which are probably helping make these big holes. Like things like this. Well, green stink bugs. You can look on here too. I don't know if you can do any of this.
Buy your truck.
Yep.
You just started in August?
Maybe they're camera shy.
What do you teach?
I don't actually teach. I'm the vegetable extension specialist, so I'm with these growers.
Oh, cool. Actually, can you just use?
Well,
I go out and work with growers, workshop like that.
well, we could go and try to look for some squash bug on the watermelon, since we're not having any luck with the green stink bug. Okay. We have a couple different varieties of melon in here. One of them is the Moon and Stars, and that's an heirloom type. And then we have this Crimson Sweet, which is like a typical smaller watermelon. Seeded. But we'll look for some squash bugs and amongst the weeds. And squash bugs will overwinter in straw and leaf litter. And although we have a problem with them every year, crop rotation can help. Tillage or removing residue, sanitation can help reduce the overwintering populations and reduce the numbers that will be there the following year. Although it seems like if you're doing organic growing, it's just one of those pests that are going to be persistent that you're going to have every year. And you'll often find them in the residue on the soil surface. on the undersides of leaves. The soldier beetle helps. It kills a lot of. It eats a lot of soft-bodied insects. It eats eggs. I don't know about these. The stink bug and squash bug eggs are really tough. It takes something with really strong mouth parts to. Did you?
Yeah.
They may have moved on from the melon. Yes, they will move on to other things. Have you seen any squash bugs, Elias?
No. I saw a green stink bug though.
Where on?
It was on me actually.
It was on you. Watch it stay on you. And this is feeding damage from either cucumber beetles will do this, and they're just eating that outer rind, chewing on it, or slugs can do that too. And I've seen some slugs in here where the mulch is really moist and shady. It doesn't impact the fruit inside the melon, but it just makes it look a little less attractive. Find one? You're supposed to show everyone.
Cantaloupe?
Yeah, this was cantaloupe. And I suppose they just killed the cantaloupe and moved on, because they were all over here.
So they'll do
Just
that once
2
they
weeks.
finish off one crop, they'll just jump over to.
Yeah, they'll move on, and it might be getting to the time where they're trying to overwinter. So, but you should see them hiding under this mulch.
What does that mean, overwinter?
Overwinter? It's kind of their hibernation state where they're.
Right there.
Where? Yes, there you go. Get him. Here's another one. So when they're overwintering, their metabolism slows. They're not feeding. They're just kind of in stasis. They're not reproducing, or they're not able to reproduce. They're just waiting it out for the next season.
How about with cantaloupe? Did you have trouble with possums or raccoons or?
We didn't too bad. We had a lot of squash vine borer this year, and it killed our pumpkins. And what else did we have? We have a lot of cucumber beetles every year, and you have some bacterial wilt.
The vine borers?
The vine borers, yeah.
What can you? We had a problem with those taking out our zucchini and then our zephyr.
Yeah, they're bad on zucchini. So what you can do for vine borers, there's a mating disruptor that you can buy. I think Johnny's might sell it, and it confuses the males so that they can't find the females, and that will reduce the egg laying. Another thing you can do is, I've not tried this, but they say if you mound up the soil, because they really want to get in right here at the base. So if you kind of mound up the soil and hide the base, they're not likely to lay eggs, or it'll prevent them from laying eggs. But otherwise, but you could also I would worry about rotting, stem rot, if you did that.
Yeah.
Don't you think that would be it? If it was wet and you have real clay, heavy, slow draining soils, that might be a problem.
Stem.
I heard you can put aluminum foil.
That was another thing I was going to mention. I don't know
I don't know if it works.
if it works or not, but you could, if you wrap the stem in aluminum foil, it would act as a physical barrier. Here's another squash bug.
Wouldn't heat be a problem with that?
With what?
Heat? Wouldn't that foil attract heat, make it hotter around there?
It wouldn't too much. The foil tends to reflect the
Okay,
light.
more than- okay.
I read diatomaceous earth is one of the things.
Um,
I'm not sure if
They're hard because what happens is the female will come, a mated female will come, and she'll lay eggs in crevices right on here. So that when as soon as the eggs hatch, the larvae will burrow inside. So you can't get them. And once they're in there, it's kind of game over.
Okay.
And the plant the larvae will feed from the inside and travel up, and it basically just destroys the vascular system, and your plant will wilt and die. And you won't see it until you look and the damage is already done. You'll see some, what's called gummosis, and that's their frass coming out of a hole with plant exudate. Kind of, it looks gummy and crumbly, brown. What you could do if it was timed just right, and this pheromone trapping can help with that, with timing, is once you start seeing catching adults in your traps, you can spray BT.
Okay.
And
so that was,
and that BT will only work if that caterpillar, if it's already on the plant when that caterpillar hatches. So it's really a tight window of time. And then if that caterpillar, as soon as it eats that BT, it'll take care of it. The stomach will lyse and all of that, and it'll kill it before it can actually enter the plant. So you want to try to get them before they get in. So they're hard.
that sounds difficult.
They're really tough.
With the pheromone.
Some years. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just wondering, with the pheromone, would you do that preventatively then?
It would be, yeah, and they do that in conventional IPM practices too, where they'll time their insecticides to target the adults. So as soon as they start catching the adults with the pheromone baiting stations, and there's two different things. There's the pheromone baiting station, which will attract the adults, and there's the mating disruption, and that confuses.
I guess I was meaning the disruption.
Yeah.
Thank you
Should be
very-
working the
we're-
same.
We're going to leave.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I saw another brown marmorated hanging out. So the brown marmorated is also reported on melons and squash. Although by far I see more squash bugs occupying that niche, and so I'll see brown marmorated on things that aren't so heavily infested. But I've seen a couple on pumpkins here and there. it was the squash vine borer that really did the pumpkins in for us this year. And another thing with the squash vine borer is just some years they'll be different, or you'll have really high populations, and some years you won't. And succession planting can help too, where you just keep planting successions. But our zucchini and squash were hard to hit this year.
Is that another thing? If you maybe did it in a different field, it'd help reduce the problem next year? Or?
With rotation, rotation doesn't really help that much with things like the cucumber beetles or the vine borers or the imported cabbage worm. They're able to hone in on their host plants,
Okay.
and they come in every year. So it helps with a lot of other things. So you should be rotating, and it'll help with soil-borne pathogens, and it helps with soil-borne insects in the soil. Corn rootworm actually is something that you can maybe rotate out of.
Okay.
But the adults will find their hosts every year. So the surround will help,
Okay.
and so will succession planting and timing is a big part. And then planting a lot of different things. That's why certainly organic growers, it's riskier to just have one field or a lot of your crop and your income tied up in just one type of crop, because you're likely to have that kind of failure. But I think this year we had maybe 60 or 70 different varieties, different things. And you always have, some things that do well, and we have a tough time with cucurbits. They're just tough in our region of the country to do organically, and not just because of pests, but because of the insects too. A pumpkin had a lot of Plectosporium, and we had downy mildew take out our cucumbers. So yes, rotating, lots of different varieties, different crops, timing, succession planting can all help. Here's some more jalapenos, so maybe we can find. I really wanted to show you what that damage looked like on a fruit that was bright red, because it's so easy to see it. But of course, since I need to find it, I probably will find it. So the fruit tends to, when it gets red, it'll get a little woody like that. And these red ones are really good for hot pepper jelly. Does anyone make that? Hot pepper jelly?
Our peppers never germinate.
Did it ever turn? Perfect.
Perfect damage.
Perfect damage.
Save that one for Heather too.
So that one's pretty obvious. And we were seeing it worse maybe a month ago, which leads me to believe that this new fruit, that they found something else that they want better. So maybe, and I really do see them a lot in the okra and on the sunflowers. So they move around, and that's something that we don't totally understand, is what do they want at any particular time. There was one. Here's some more damage. This one has a lot of damage. Let's check. So should we cut one of those open since we have? There, it's really obvious. This particular plant had it. A lot of damage. Yeah, see, someone was really having feeding frenzy in here.
Party.
What the objectives that I'll be working on for the brown marmorated stink bug research is it starts next year and it's 2 years. And we'll be doing trap cropping, so looking at trying to tease out what it really is, what its preferences are, so that we can plant these highly desirable plants in perimeter or between rows of our cash crops, and our cash crops will be tomatoes and peppers. And then seeing what we can do to manage them in those trap crops. So it's kind of a pulling the insect out of the cash crop strategy. And things that might really work might just be vacuums. Bug vacuums have come a long way with BioQuip now has an insect Zuka, which is basically just a modified leaf blower that instead of blowing sucks, so you can go around and suck them up. If we can't kill them with chemicals, maybe that's what we need to start thinking of, is some other kind of ways to look at actually getting them out of the field. Another thing I'll be looking at, another objective that I'm in on, is using row covers, but we're not just looking at, this is the typical Agribon row covers that's available to growers, but we're trying to look at something more, different types of textiles and fabrics that keep the bugs, the pests out, but allow pollinators and smaller pollinators like sweat bees in, and that last longer in the field and that are more sustainable, because it's really tough to reuse these from year to year. They'll get dirty, they'll get holy, and we often find that we have to buy new every year, which is hard on an organic grower that wants to be sustainable, because that ends up being trash. And then another objective is really doing more to understand what native predators and parasitoids, what they can do to manage brown marmorated. So we'll be looking at egg masses and looking to detect any parasitoids in the egg masses, and putting sentinel egg masses out, and trying to figure out who can maybe suppress populations naturally. And then also what those predators and parasitoids want as far as how to increase their numbers in the environment for more conservation biocontrol. Is there anything else you'd like to see? Are there any other questions? Heather, did you want to see the jalapeno?
Has damage.
But a lot of what will work for brown marmorated, because the damage is very similar. The life cycles are fairly similar. A lot of our control methods that will work for brown marmorated will also work for our native stink bugs. Although brown marmorated right now are more significant pests because they have these populations that are higher, and they're overwintering and aggregation and stuff.
All right.
That was,
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
yeah, thanks.